New at 5:30, temporary protected status is ending for hundreds of thousands of people in the U.S. after a Supreme Court decision this week. Haitians and Syrians could be deported. Many of them live in the southeastern part of our state, which Luke Haidash covers. He is your reporter with that story from Norwich.
Temporary protected status allows immigrants to live and work in the United States legally if their home country is deemed unsafe. For many Haitian people here in the New London County area, that's all they know. But now things are changing. Enoch Petite-Home wears his American flag pinned with pride. He came to the States from Haiti when he was young. Connecticut is his home.
I always tell people I'm a product of Norwich with Haitian descent.
But for thousands with similar stories, that may not be the case much longer.
It's a sad moment.
TPS protects 1.3 million people in the United States from 17 different countries. The Supreme Court ruled 6-3 to end the program for Haitians and Syrians. That could affect about 5,000 people in Connecticut. Shanika Farias moved to New London 16 years ago from Haiti. She's now a city councilor.
It's a community of people who's been through so much, from the earthquake to the assassination of our president to just a lot of instability.
Haiti is considered a level 4 travel advisory from the U.S. government, which tells Americans not to go there because of kidnapping, crime, terrorist activity, civil unrest, and limited health care.
Here we are saying that those reasons exist, but then good enough for the 350,000 people impacted by this.
Petite-Home says whether you're an immigrant or not, we may all feel the impacts of this.
This might affect your neighbor, people you know, people you've seen all your life.
Haitians were first granted TPS back in 2010 after the earthquake, Syrians in 2012 after a civil war there. Your reporter in Norwich, Luke Haidash, Channel 3 Eyewitness News.